Hello, hello, it's the Curious Love back with another Game of Thrones episode review, and wow, it's been a while. For those of you that don't follow Geekvolution and haven't really been over there to see me talking about this, I actually have a kid now. That sort of took up my life for like the last, it's probably been like 10 or 11 months since I last did anything. The whole pregnancy, and he's almost 2 months old now, so yeah, that's part of it, but you guys don't care about excuses. Let's go ahead and get into Season 7, Episode 1, Dragonstone. So just like last year with my reviews on Geekvolution, I'm going to go ahead and start with the plot lines that I think were either the least important, the least interesting, or kind of had the least to do with the overall story. It's not necessarily that I don't like these characters or anything like that. It's just that these are the ones that were either just little snippets, and then we'll make our way through to the most important and the most kind of revelations that happened during this episode. So right near the beginning, we had that White Walker scene, which was just like a minute or two long, and they were walking slowly toward the camera. Obviously, the biggest thing from that is that White Walkers are still coming. The showrunners just really want us to know that and not forget it. Not that we could with how much everybody's talking about it. But big thing being that they have giants, which I guess, of course, we knew, but seeing all of the giants like slowly come out of the mist was crazy. Obviously a very visually interesting scene, but I don't think we really got any info that we didn't have before, so it's hard to really give that info kind of into what's happening in the show. And coming right out of that scene, we had Bran showing up at the wall, presumably having just had a vision of what we just saw with the White Walkers. Ed greets him at the gate, lets him in. Nothing crazy happened with the wall. Everybody's been speculating that since he has that mark from the Night King that he's going to bring down the wall. It's going to stop the magic. Obviously, the wall did not come crumbling down as soon as he stepped through the threshold, so I think we can safely say that the wall did not come crumbling down just because he was there. We probably won't see the ramifications of him going through until either he gets to, maybe one of the weirwood trees at Winterfell, or if he, once the White Walkers get there, if we'll just see the ramifications that way and just kind of, maybe they won't touch on it. Maybe it's something they'll only cover in the books. Obviously, Ed knows where Jon is, so I'm hoping that we get another Stark reunion. I don't know. I'm hoping it's next episode. We did see a clip of him in the wheelchair, so who knows? Next, let's talk about King's Landing. I'm a little disappointed in what they gave us in this episode, considering the previous episode at the end of last season was very King's Landing heavy. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little over the Cersei-Jaime plot. I feel like it's run its course. I feel like it has come to its natural conclusion where Jaime needs to kill Cersei. She did exactly what he killed the Mad King for. And obviously I understand that this is his sister and his lover and, all that it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than just his king. That's not family. But, Kingsguard, that's a sacred oath. I don't think Cersei is long for this world, whether it is from Jaime, like a lot of people are speculating, or if it's from Dany, or if she kills herself, if she does what the Mad King said he was going to do and burns down all of King's Landing as, instead of giving it up to Dany. We'll see. Obviously, we also had Euron showing up. I do like him a lot more this season than last season. I know that was a big complaint of a lot of fans of the books, that he was just kind of blah at the end of last season, but he's a little more, dare I say, badass, looking like he walked straight out of a Hot Topic, but what can you do? I mean, he had that great line with and I have two good hands, kind of sizing up Jaime. I'm interested to see kind of where that goes, but like I said, I am very much over Cersei and Jaime, and Cersei's been one of my favorite characters to watch, but I do feel like she's reached peak crazy. She has nowhere to go but down from here. So I'm interested to see her downfall, but I kind of don't care about her plotting things going forward. I have a feeling we won't see the fall of King's Landing until the end of the season. So I'm hoping that they give us something a little more interesting than we had this episode with that plot. I'm not gonna hate on it or anything, but I'm very interested to see that plot just kind of reach its conclusion. Now, this was at the end of the episode, but we had Dany finally reaching Westeros. Oh my gosh, seasons, years of us waiting for this to happen. Obviously, this is a very, very important scene, but it didn't give us a lot of new information. It was very poignant. Wonderful to see her finally getting there. I don't think they could have done this any other way. I love that they just gave us a wordless scene of her discovering her home, someplace she has no memory of, hasn't been at since she was an infant. I think it was perfect what they did, but it also didn't give us any new information. I don't know what else to talk about. It's interesting to see her kind of rediscovering her heritage, and I think she did a marvelous job acting that. I'm excited to see what's going to go down with that whole crew next episode, because they have got hashtag squad goals going on with that little group. So a lot of favorite characters going down there. Have a feeling we're going to see that group interact with the Starks pretty soon, but we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. Moving on to some of the more meatier plot lines. Some of you might be surprised at the order that I put the next two plots in as far as most important, but I'll explain it once we get to the next one. But we're going to go ahead and talk about Arya next. Wow, what a killer cold open. I think personally this is my favorite cold open of the series. We've had some good ones. Obviously, they don't do it every episode. I knew as soon as Walder Frey was on screen that it was Arya. I know some people were sort of thinking that maybe it was a flashback to him planning the Red Wedding, or, you know, any other number of things. But for me, I was just immediately like, oh my god, like, that's Arya, and she's about to kill a bazillion people. I know this is probably a little controversial because so many people have been holding out for Lady Stoneheart. I don't think at this point there's any chance of us getting Lady Stoneheart, so it's cool to see Arya get to take the place of some of the stuff that Lady Stoneheart does in the books. And I don't know, I think it's pretty cool for Arya to get that justice. I know a lot of people see Arya as a character that, you know, is on the side of good but is kind of going dark. As far as her, like, motives and everything, but I love it. I mean, like, I would love to see all of the Starks be, like, righteous but badass and willing to do what needs to be done to, you know, make everything good in Westeros again. I'm okay with characters being a little bit in the gray area. I don't need my heroes to be these, like, perfect righteous beings. So seeing Arya, who I consider to be a good guy, getting down and dirty and taking out people who deserve it. Like, I know that Lady Stoneheart's plot is very much about, like, the cost of revenge and how that can drive you to crazy lengths and drive you mad and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Even the manifestation of, like, drive you to, like, be outwardly ugly or whatever. And we might see that from Arya. I still think that we are going to see some of that, like, price of revenge stuff. I have a feeling that, you know, someone at some point, maybe Cersei, maybe the Red Woman even, is gonna be like, or maybe when she re-meets the Hound, if she re-meets the Hound, that plot will come to its conclusion. Who knows? I think that it's gonna be a little more complicated than what we've seen from Lady Stoneheart, though, because of what we saw with those Lannister soldiers, which, by the way, I loved the Ed Sheeran cameo. I thought it was great. I know some people thought it was dumb or distracting. My husband has no idea what Ed Sheeran looks like, and I had to be like, oh my god, it's Ed Sheeran. Like, he had no idea. So I think it only matters if you know who Ed Sheeran is, and if you don't know who Ed Sheeran is, like, who cares? I don't know. I don't think it was that big of a deal. They've had cameos before. He has a great voice. They brought in another song from the books, which I always love. And more importantly, we got to see Arya interacting with people that I'm sure a season or two ago she would have killed without a second thought. I mean, it was a bit cliche, but I think it did a lot of stuff that we needed to see from Arya's plot, and to see her have this sort of revelation that just because you serve House Lannister doesn't mean you're a bad guy. And honestly, flip side of the coin, just because you serve House Stark or Dany doesn't mean that you are a good guy, you know, to put it in kind of really, really lame terms. But it's interesting. I think it does a lot for Arya's storyline and Arya's plot, her character arc. Yeah, so going forward, I think that we're going to see more of Arya's kind of natural conclusion of her going to the brink and now coming back stronger and more badass and with an awesome set of skills. But instead of being this sort of, like, crazy, like, assassin that's part of a cult, she has retained her humanity, and she's coming back. Very hero's journey. Coming back from the brink and coming back home to Winterfell. Even though she says she's going to go kill Cersei, I really don't think she's going to make it down to King's Landing. I think she's going to run into the Red Woman, or it seems like, I mean, like, she's obviously more south than the Hound and the Brotherhood Without Banners. So I don't know. I don't think she would run into them, and I doubt that the Red Woman has made it that far south yet. So I guess she wouldn't run into either of them. But there's got to be something. We saw in the preview for next week some stuff with maybe Nymeria, and I don't know if maybe that's going to kind of like click her back into like, oh yeah, I'm a Stark, I'm going home, like we saw at the end of last season. But I don't know how, but I do not think that she's going to make it all the way to King's Landing to confront Cersei. I don't think that she's going to get that revenge, but who knows? Maybe she'll sneak into King's Landing while Dany's attacking and kill Cersei before anybody else can. That would be pretty fucking awesome, but I don't think it's going to happen. On to the plotline that I said was probably going to surprise some people, that I put it more important than Arya's, is Sam's. Now, it's no surprise to anybody who watched my reviews over on Geekvolution last year that I love Sam. He's probably my favorite character. I mean, like, he's not a main character, but as far as secondary characters go, I love Sam so much. I think he's so pure, and he's just, like, the only character in these books that's just, like, good. And I'm so happy that he's in Old Town surrounded by books just like he wanted to be, even if it's a little bit of a shitty job. Haha, no pun intended, except for Aurelian, there's a pun intended. I loved the kind of funny thing of him, like, cleaning out the chamber pots and then, like, serving the food that looks exactly the same with, like, the retching. I thought it was hilarious. It didn't really gross me out. I've seen a lot of people talking about how it was, like, really gross and it was making them retch. Like, I'm usually somebody that cannot handle, like, barf and stuff like that, but for whatever reason, maybe my love of Sam just overcame that. But the reason that this plot, I think, is so important is for some stuff that maybe not all of you caught. I didn't even catch it. The internet did, and I was able to see it afterwards. But the book that Sam stole from the Hogwarts Library Restricted section was all about Dragonglass, and he's reading about Dragonglass, and obviously out loud, he says, oh, I need to tell Jon that there is Dragonglass at Dragonstone, which they already knew from Stannis, but maybe they just didn't believe Stannis because he was a little off-kilter there at the end. But I think what's more important, obviously that has set forward things for Jon's plotline, but I think what is even more important and more interesting is that he is going to, like, in there, they're talking about how Dragonglass has, like, restorative and healing properties, and there's, like, studies about that if you ingest it, it's all in the writing. Again, I did not catch this. Total props to the internet and other people that are smarter and took more time to, like, pause stuff and read it, found this. But I really think that since we saw Sam interact with Jorah, whose hand came out of nowhere, I saw that was coming, actually, because in the trailer, I remembered the shape of that, like, wooden door. So when Sam was, like, taking the chamber pots or the plates, whichever they were, off of the little ledges, I was like, oh, we're about to see Jorah. So it didn't really, like, surprise me because it was in the trailer. The fact that he was asking after Dany was, like, so interesting. And he said it in such a, like, weird tone. The Dragon Queen, is she here yet? I think he's probably starting to go a little crazy from the grayscale. We'll see. But his arm looks messed up. But again, we saw that in the trailer. It's, you know, not that big of a surprise. Anyway, back to the Dragonglass. I think that Sam is going to realize that maybe that could have, you know, restorative properties or whatever. And I'm not sure why he'll specifically give it to Jorah and not to any of the other people that I assume are also in those cells, probably also in quarantine, or maybe some of them are prisoners. Who knows? I don't think that they would have prisoners. Like, do the Maesters keep prisoners? Like, I feel like those are people that are in quarantine. So I don't know why he'll specifically choose Jorah. Maybe because they knew his dad? But regardless, I think that this specific plot, while I know a lot of people were like, oh, Sam, like, he's not everybody's favorite. He's sort of a little pudgy guy who just kind of is worried all the time, even though I love him. But I think that this plot line is really, really going to have a lot of stuff to, especially giving that info to Jon, helping Jorah. Like, those are two main plot lines that Sam is now involved with. Obviously, he was always involved with Jon's plot, but, you know, the Dany plot, he's also going to be potentially, I think, sending Jorah back to Dany with information, possibly. Who knows? Maybe sending Jorah back to Dany, being like, hey, you should trust the Starks. You should trust Jon. This guy Sam helped me, and he trusts Jon. You know, whatever. Who knows? But I really think that this has a lot of... It's a good, like, jumping off point for the rest of the season and for the rest of the series. We are down to our last two plot lines, and I'm going to pull another little switcheroo. I'm sure any of you who watched my reviews last year on Geekvolution will be surprised that I am going to be putting Jon and Sansa at the second place slot, not at the first place slot, because I know my Stark bias is like, knows no bounds. They always end up at the top, even though I really try not to let it be my bias, and that I do think that their plot was very important last year. But regardless, they're not at the top this week. I think they still had some really important things. The fact that Jon is having everyone from ages 10 to 60, I think is what he said, both girls and boys. Obviously, Lyanna had another just amazing speech. That little girl deserves all the Emmys, deserves every role she ever wants in the future. She's an amazing actress, and that character is fucking awesome. I'm so happy that she's still part of the plot going forward. I mean, after the fan reaction last year, I don't think they were gonna let her quietly slip into the background. I think that she's here to stay, even if in the books, you know, from what they know of what George R. R. Martin has told them, even if she's not a main player, like, they're not gonna let her slip away. She's way too much of a fan favorite. And Jon and Sansa's relationship, as we predicted from last year, is being tested, is being stretched. I don't think that ultimately it's going to cause any sort of downfall or anything. I think that Jon and Sansa have too much of a brother-sister relationship. They'll argue for sure. It will stretch it a little bit. It'll cause some conflict, but I think ultimately Jon and Sansa are going to stand strong together. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more of like a Sansa or Bran, but I guess he's probably going to be the three-eyed raven, and that's like a full-time job if he survives. But I feel like at the end we're going to have Sansa as Warden of the North, Jon as King of the Seven Kingdoms. Whatever's left, like maybe he'll let the North go and they'll be like the, you know, he's the Targaryen, she's the Stark, whatever. But I don't think that it's going to drive them apart. I think that there's going to be some sort of compromise reached. And Sansa doesn't really seem like she has aspirations for the throne. It's more just that she wants the best to happen for the North, like whatever's the best course of action. And if that means that she has to take the throne in the North or whatever, then yeah, she'll take it. But I think that she trusts Jon, and I think that as long as Jon kind of allows her to give advice and doesn't make the mistake that he made last year of not heeding her advice, but then this episode he didn't heed her advice, and I think he made the right decision in allowing the families that had betrayed the North to continue with the next generation. I loved that really sweet scene. I loved them kind of kneeling before him. And when Alistair Stark stood up, she was like, okay, that was good. Like, she like had this face that was just so like, all right, I did it. Like, little smile on her face. Like, it was cute. I think that they'll be very good allies to have. They don't have a ton of people, and they have a fuck ton of White Walkers and Whites coming toward them. I guess a fuck ton of Whites and a lot of White Walkers. We don't really know how many White Walkers, but it's obviously more the Whites that are the problem. He sends Tormund and the Wildlings to Eastwatch because they think that that's where they'll be crossing, and it does sound like from my final plotline that we'll go over in a second that that is where they are going to be crossing. So obviously those kind of plots are going to converge with the Wildlings. Oh god, does that mean Tormund's gonna die? Because they're gonna get below the wall. Maybe they won't get below the wall till next season, because I feel like King's Landing and the like war over the throne is gonna be resolved this season, and then next season is gonna be like, shit, the White Walkers are trying to like kill the fuck out of us. Yeah, so maybe they'll be okay and they'll just like hold them off. Maybe they won't even get there till that like finale or whatever. So I just let Tormund live. That's all I care about. Just let Tormund live. Final plot line. In my opinion, the absolute best plot line, the most important plot line that gave us the most info and the most stuff going forward for this show was The Hound and Brotherhood Without Banners. Wow, they had a lot of really cool stuff. It was a lot of character stuff for The Hound. And I don't know if it's just a nod, like if they necessarily have info from George R. R. Martin that the Gravedigger from the books is the Hound, because that is a popular fan theory. It's pretty well supported. I don't know that they actually have that info, if they're just trying to be like, hey, a little bit of a nod to the fans that are coming up with theories online, but they had him digging a grave in this episode, and that's not something that he would normally do. It could mirror and kind of obviously like leapfrog over kind of where we saw his, again, we don't know it's the Hound, plot with being the Gravedigger and kind of atoning for all the things that he's done. If this was just like a mini version of that, because he did bury that father and daughter from, what was that, season 4, I think? Ugh, don't shoot me if it's not season 4, I can't remember. That they basically left for dead when they stole their horses and stuff. And yeah, it's great to see him have to come to terms with that. The Brotherhood, who's sort of been like in and out of the plot, but never like at the forefront, feel like they're really going to become main players now. Interesting to see Clegane kind of get over his fear of fire a little bit. I mean, it's not like he was sticking his face in the fire or anything, but like, you know, he gets close to it, he stares at it, he actually sees a vision of the White Walkers and the Whites coming toward the wall where it meets the sea, which is Eastwatch. So it'll be interesting to see, like, are they going to go to Eastwatch and meet up with all the wildlings and tormen that are defending the wall over there? Because I'm pretty sure that we've seen them beyond the wall in some of the things going forward, but we'll see. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and dive into that next time on Game of Thrones trailer. I'm just going to kind of go through each of the little scenes from the next time on Game of Thrones thing. First, we have them saying that the Targaryens cannot be trusted. It could be that Bran has already reached Winterfell and like has told Jon that he's a Targaryen. I really don't think that's it. I think it's in reference to Dany. He's wanting to go south. He's probably received the Raven from Sam, wants to get the dragon glass so that they can defeat the White Walkers. And of course, all the Norsemen are being like, meh, 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 Targaryens are bad. Like, shut up with your bias. I mean, I am definitely in the camp that Dany's going to go crazy and she's not going to survive till the end of this show. That's me. It's not necessarily what I want to happen, but I don't not want it to happen. I don't know. It's what I think will happen, regardless of what I want or do not want. And it looks like some stuff's going to be going down between Cersei and the King's Landing people, and then Dany and all her people. Asha/Yara is talking about how they've got a fleet and dragons, and they should attack now. I think we're probably going to see Euron and the Ironborn clash. We've seen that in some of the other trailers. We don't really see a lot of it in this trailer, but I would not be surprised if they die. I love Theon. I've loved his arc, but I think that he has redeemed himself by saving Sansa. He's gone back to his home. He's, you know, I feel like he's kind of like Arya, been there and back again type of a thing. And going forward, this is going to be, I don't know. I don't think they're long for this world. I think that Euron is going to kill them, sad as it is. Or at least Theon. Maybe Yara will survive. We'll see. Just because she hasn't had a crazy big plot. But, I mean, they've introduced characters and killed them off immediately before. So she's been around for seasons, even if she hasn't been in a ton of episodes. So who knows? We'll see next week. There's a couple of shots in quick succession. I'm going to try and hit each of them. There's a bunch of horses riding. It's hard to tell exactly. Let me back it up real quick. I think those are horses riding out of Winterfell. It's kind of hard to tell, but it is snowing, so I'm assuming that it's Winterfell. Maybe it's like Jon and his company leaving to go to Dragonstone. We see Arya and what the fans believe is Nymeria. Some people aren't excited for that to happen. I am so excited. I love the wolves. I love the Starks. But really, I just want, I want the two wolves that are still alive to be together, and I want all the Stark siblings together. I'm thinking that that might be what sort of turns her around to take her north. I think that it's probably going to be that she's like, oh man, this is my wolf, like, home feels, I need to go home. I just really want her to go home, okay? A couple quick flashes of people just looking around. One of them that was important, I have it pulled up right now, was Yara and Ilaria Sand making out. I don't think she's gonna die, but honestly, the last time we saw Miss Sand kiss somebody, they died. But they're both shown to be bi, if not lesbian. So it could just be that they're flirting it up and kissing. But I don't know. I don't trust Ilaria with her sneaky lip poison. I don't know if maybe that's going to make some dissent among the ranks if she tries to kill Yara, but I don't know that she would have any reason to. So yeah, I'm untrusting of this kiss that we've seen, but who knows? It's probably just that they're flirting for no reason. We also see Peter getting choked. I think we know from a different trailer that it definitely is Jon. Let me look one more time. It doesn't look like we can actually see who it is that's choking him, but even if we didn't know that it was Jon, I'm pretty sure that we've seen the reverse shot. Pretty sure that we've seen it. I'm pretty sure that we know that it's Jon. I'm just going to assume that it's Jon. Maybe next week it's actually Sansa or Brienne, but I'm pretty sure it's Jon. It looks like somebody with dark hair, so that would make sense. I cannot wait. I need Peter to answer for what he's done. Somebody, somewhere, has to know that he was the one who betrayed Eddard, that he's the reason that the Stark's father is dead. Like, he needs to answer for that. And regardless of all the things that he's done to help and not help Sansa in the book, he's a little more helpful and not quite as dumb and creepy in sending Sansa to the Boltons. So I think he's probably a little bit more on the worthy path in the books. And he's sort of crashed down a little bit, but he did come to save them at the Battle of the Bastards, and I think that that will definitely happen in the books as well, even if not exactly the same way. So I'm interested to see him fall. I want him to be punished. I want somebody to find out what has happened. That's probably not what's happening here. It's probably more that he's saying something about Lyanna, and maybe he knows somehow. I don't know why he would know. Like, how would Peter know? But he knows so many things. So he could be saying something about that because it looks like they're in the crypts. I think that's kind of the prevailing theory online. We will see next week. And I think, finish this off. Yeah, that is the last bit of the trailer. Keep that from autoplaying the next video. So yeah, what do you guys think? What did you think of this episode? I talked a really long time. I'm going to try and keep these a little bit shorter going forward, but there was a lot of plot lines, a lot of different things happening, and we're getting down to the wire here. We've got, 14 episodes left? It's 7 episodes each season, right? I'm not looking that up right now, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 7 each season. So we are down to the wire here, where we've got just over the length of a normal season, with 14 episodes. So what do you guys think? Are you excited? Did you like this episode? I've seen a lot of people complaining about stuff that I personally think is nitpicky, specifically with Ed Sheeran. But also a lot of people didn't like the Sam scene. I thought that was hilarious and awesome with him doing all the chores and stuff. It also shows a long passage of time. I didn't really touch on the Archmaester that we met, but he didn't really do anything. So I'm sure going forward he will do some stuff. But so far he just kind of made Sam hold a guy's liver. So yeah, my mind is going a million miles a minute. Like I already mentioned, I have a child that is sleeping in the other room. So I'm new mom worries, needing to go check on him. So that's also part of it. But I will try to keep these shorter going forward. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys, do you disagree with me? Do you have some theories that you're following that I'm not following? Let me know. Let's talk about it down in the comments. And I will see you guys with another Game of Thrones review next week. Bye, everybody.